The agreement that brought an end to brutal conflict on the Korean peninsula turns 70 years old today. And while commemorative events are being held in both South and North Korea, the atmosphere marking the occasion is starkly different. So how is North Korea celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Armistice Agreement? What do such celebrations mean for ordinary North Koreans? And what are the broader implications of this latest armistice anniversary amid the current tensions on the Korean peninsula? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today, that is July 27th, the two Koreas mark the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Armistice Agreement that cemented the ceasefire to conflict on the Korean peninsula. And in this panel session, we'll touch upon North Korea's commemoration of this particular day. For more, I have Lee Jeong-cheol here in the studio with us. Jeong-cheol, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I also have, that is, Jacco Zwetsloot with us. Jacco, it's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Jeong-cheol, let's begin then with the meaning of the day, July 27th in North Korea then.
The meaning of the July 27th in North Korea is kind of different. So as you know, in South Korea, today is Armistice Day, right? But in North Korea, today is the Victory Day in Fatherland Liberation War. So basically, according to North Korea, the regime's propaganda, they say that the US started this war and North Korea defeated them. That's why they say they won the war, but which is not true, right? But the regime is still using this as propaganda. And the thing is that a lot of people in North Korea believe this actually, because they are brainwashed. So I was not exception because when I was in North Korea, I actually used to hate the US because the US actually invaded the war by the propaganda. But after I came to South Korea, none of that was true, right? Because you know, Kim Il-sung, the current leader's grandfather, he actually started the Korean War with the help of Stalin and Mao Zedong. So actually there is not any victory, but South Korea and North Korea technically still remain at war. Yeah.
Right, they do. And Jacco, the Korean War itself, it has a number of different names with regard to the countries that were involved in it. Could you tell us a bit about those names and their implications?
Yes, I did a bunch of research to find out all the names. So let's start with the different Korean names. You know, here in South Korea, it's known as the 6.25 전쟁 or the 625 war, and that's it's also been called the 6.25 사변. 사변 being another word for big incident or war. And that's because in Korea, things are often named after the date that they happened. So June 25th is therefore 625. Similarly, the 1979 assassination of President Park Chung-hee is named after the date that it happened. So it's known as the October 26th incident rather than the assassination of Park Chung-hee. In the past, Korean events used to be named after the year that they happened in, and not the year by the number, but rather the name from the Chinese 60-year cycle of stems and branches. And the name of the year for 1950 is Kyung-in. So Kyung-in Gongnan, or the communist chaos of the year Kyung-in, is another lesser-known South Korean name for the Korean War. Now in North Korea, as Jeong-cheol already mentioned, it's called the 조국 해방 전쟁, or the Great Fatherland Liberation War, or Great Fatherland War of Liberation, because Kim Il-sung saw himself as liberating all of Korea from the imperialism of the sort of American neo-colonialists. Now in America, it was once called a police action or the Korea conflict, not a war, because the purpose of the United States in intervening was to stop North Korea's aggression and push it back. And in that sense, war was never declared by the United States against North Korea. China calls it the longer name here, it's the War to Resist US Aggression and Aid Korea. It's a longer name, and you can find that name on Chinese museums devoted to the Korean War, like in Dandong, for example. So China sees the war as having two aims. Number one, fighting back the American army, and number two, helping Korea. But which Korea? It's North Korea that they were helping. In Russia, they just call it the Korean War, quite prosaic. Now, it's become fashionable in recent years after the signing of the armistice to call it the Forgotten War, especially in the United States, because it was overshadowed by the World War II on one side and the Vietnam War on the other side, both of which were longer, had far-reaching cultural effects in America, and more people died. But for those who actually fought here and for the Koreans themselves, it's never been a forgotten war, and so that name is probably the most inaccurate or nonsensical of all the names.
Right, of course. Meanwhile, back in North Korea, Jeong-cheol, there is talk about the celebrations this particular year being grander in scale as we mark the 70th anniversary of the armistice. Could you tell us more about the importance of the event this year for North Korea?
That's right. Actually, the Armistice Day today is a really important day in North Korea. But in North Korea, the regime puts importance to 5 or 10 years anniversary. And as you know, this year's in March 17th anniversary of the Armistice Day, right? So in North Korea, there are a lot of events take place now. And even North Korea invited China and Russia as well, right? Which means this time it's a really important event. And whenever this day comes in North Korea, they also invite some war veterans, who fought in the Korean War. And they invite them to Pyongyang and to show that the regime takes good care of them who sacrificed their lives in the war. So when I was in North Korea, I was kind of envious of them. Because, you know, in North Korea, if you have a family who fought in the Korean War, that is a great honor, And nowadays, also throughout the country, there are a lot of events take place today. For example, some events that show that the ugly side of the U.S. I mean, the propaganda. So, U.S. invaded North Korea and a lot of people died. So, those kinds of events take place nowadays.
Right, of course, ahead of the military parade scheduled for later this evening then. Jacco, the last time the regime held a grand military parade was back in February, I believe, to mark the founding of its army, right?
That's right. In early February, North Korea celebrated the 75th anniversary of the founding of the Korean People's Army in 1948. They actually have two founding dates and two founding years. So February in 48, that was one of them. They had a big parade at night time in February this year, which showed off tactical nuclear weapons and 16 intercontinental ballistic missile transporter erector launches, 5 of which appeared to have missiles that were carrying fuel that was solid fuel. So as analyst Ankit Panda wrote for NK News at the time, it was significant because showing that many ICBM launches at once was a way for North Korea to show to the United States that they had so many missiles that the United States and her allies probably couldn't stop or intercept all of them in the event of an all-out attack. And so it's kind of like saying basically we both have a lot of missiles, now we cannot attack each other. So it's sort of a mutually assured destruction or a mutual deterrence. Like that scene in gangster movies where two guys have guns drawn at each other and neither of them can fire without the other one firing back. So at this February parade, leader Kim Jong-un didn't make a speech, which some people had been expecting. So that was, it'll be interesting to see, does he make a speech tonight for the 70th anniversary? And there were this February, the showing off of new ceremonial colors and designs for the first time for the Korean People's Army as a whole and for the individual units that make up the army. So as well as the units, the military units that were marching, students from universities and military schools who were preparing to be in the army also marched at all levels. So it was quite a big nighttime parade.
Right. Jacco, do you suppose we're going to be seeing another display of new weapons by North Korea this time around? Or will this particular parade later on this Thursday evening be simply aimed at boosting perhaps morale?
Yeah, we have to remember that every parade has multiple functions. just like every missile launch has multiple functions. Now, the North Korean state wants its people to celebrate this Victory Day, as Jeong-cheol mentioned, that this is the day when the plucky North Koreans succeeded in bringing the might of the US Army and 15 allied nations to their knees. So this is definitely a morale booster there. And there's very little mention, by the way, given to the help given by the Chinese soldiers who fought in the Chinese People's Volunteers, and no mention at all of Soviet pilots who fought in the Korean War. But there will be a Chinese delegation and the Russian defense minister at this year's parade. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance that need to play up North Korea's bravery while also saying thanks for the help, guys, at the same time. So this is the 70th Victory Day, and round number anniversaries, 50, 60, 70, they're always a big deal in any country, no less so in North Korea. As to new weaponry that might be shown, my colleague Collins Worker wrote a piece for NK Pro on Monday about an installation, a kind of large structure that's been newly built very close to the Arch of Triumph in Pyongyang, just 3 kilometers away from Kim Il-sung Square. It could be used to store new weapons before the parade, weapons that haven't been shown at the parade before. He reasoned that they're probably not the intercontinental ballistic missile launchers because they're not the structure isn't the right length for that. They wouldn't all fit in there. So it could be a new drone type. Maybe there are new drones in there, or it could also be quite prosaic. It could simply be a huge air-conditioned tent where they're going to have a massive banquet before, during, or after the parade for veterans and the Chinese delegates. So really, we won't know. All we have to go on is the satellite imagery to say there's something interesting there. Let's keep an eye on that. Now, thousands of people have been practicing for this parade day and night. They've been spelling out giant words and the number 70 with the mosaic flip cards that they always do. So there'll be that, and there'll be a big fireworks show, an Air Force flyby. It's sure to be a big show, and the citizens of Pyongyang will see it first live, and then the rest of the country, they'll see it in the Nodong Shinmun tomorrow morning, and then they'll see some video package tomorrow afternoon, and then the rest of the world will be able to see it as well. So it'll be really interesting to see, do they bring out some veterans, and particularly, have they asked the Chinese delegate to bring some Chinese People's Volunteer veterans as well? That will be really interesting to see.
Right, I suppose we'll find out in a couple of hours then.
Yeah.
Jeong-cheol, do tell us a bit more about the preparations for this particular parade, and do tell us a bit about also the people participating in it.
As you may know, military parade in North Korea is a really important event in North Korea. So it's kind of a national first event because the leader actually watches it, right? The dictator. And so not even slightest mistake is not tolerated. So the selection for the participants in the military parade is kind of serious. So actually, I have some friends who are from Pyongyang, and he actually participated in the military parade before. And he told me there are 2 criteria should meet in order to participate in the military parade. One is a good family background. So you know, in North Korea, the regime unofficially discriminates people based on the 3 social classes, right? Like coal class and wavering class and hostile class. And of course, the participants should be included in the coal class, which means coal class includes like elites, like a Kim family and other vested rights, right? And then the other criteria is that physical condition. So should be tall and your appearance should be good because the world watches the parade and the regime should show that, okay, our soldiers are this great, yeah, look at us. So it's kind of serious event, but a lot of people actually want to participate because it's a great honor.
And an opportunity for them.
Yeah. The leader watches us. So once you participated in the parade, maybe it's a great honor of family. Yeah.
Right,
Can I ask,
see.
what was your friend's job in the parade?
He was a military.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he was just
He's marching.
That's right. Yeah.
I see.
So some people get sick, yeah, during the training because it's really serious. But you know, in North Korea, as long as you show that I sacrifice my life to the regime, you get benefit. Yeah.
Right, I see. Jacco, the latest North Korean celebration comes amid much global focus on the regime itself. I mean, in light of the recent developments, including, of course, the defection of the US soldier into North Korea. What has been revealed thus far, Jacco, about his whereabouts and well-being?
Precious little. I was actually at a press conference on Monday at the Seoul Foreign Correspondents Club. The special guest speaker was the Deputy Commander of the United Nations Command, Brigadier General Andy Harrison. He's a British officer who's the number 2 there at the UNC. And that conference had been scheduled weeks in advance. It was actually, the focus was supposed to be this very day, the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Korean War armistice, and to focus on the importance of the 70 years of peace that has been held by a multinational United Nations command. And General Harrison spoke eloquently on the subject, but as you can imagine, most of the 50 or so journalists who were gathered there really wanted to ask about Private Travis King, his whereabouts, his health, and how the US was negotiating with the Korean People's Army to get him back, assuming that he wants to come back. Now, General Harrison was able to tell us the following, and I quote, "A conversation has commenced with the Korean People's Army through the mechanisms of the Armistice Agreement. I won't and can't say anything that could prejudice that process." So, although there were many questions from journalists to try to follow up on how Private King was able to join the tour despite having to be on a plane on the way home, how the tours might be changed in the future, where Private King could be now, and what the North Korean side is saying. Unfortunately, each question was rebuffed with a no comment, deferring either to the ongoing investigation into the circumstances surrounding Private King's border crossing, or to the ongoing communications with the Korean People's Army to try to get him back again. So that will take some time to come out. Yeah.
Right. And in the meantime, then, Jeong-cheol, do you see Travis King's defection as being used by North Korea as a propaganda tool of sorts? And if that is the case, do most people believe what they hear from the government?
First, I look into some medias about the news, but there are not reports from the regime about this case, not yet. But if we look at the past, we can make some speculations about North Korea's potential future movements. So, for example, in January 1968, at the time, North Korea captured the U.S. intelligence gathering ship, the USS Pueblo. And at the time, of course, North Korea argued that the US ship invaded North Korean coast. That's why they captured, which is not true. But at the time, North Korea used it as a propaganda. They said that US again invaded us, and that's why we captured it. And North Korea, they made even documentary about it, for propaganda. So that's why I hope Travis King is safe now, but considering the historical movements from North Korean regime, we cannot exclude the chance that the regime uses this case as propaganda. But we will see.
Right, we will. And in the meantime, of course, we pray for his safe return to his family.
It's been about 10 days and they haven't said anything yet. So I think if they were going to make some propaganda to do about this, we would have seen some kind of a sign already, and we haven't. So I'm hoping for the best.
Right, we're keeping our fingers crossed for that then. In recent days, Jacco, the two Koreas, South and North Korea, they've been involved in a very tough war of words, so to speak, with North Korea talking about a nuclear retaliation. Of course, South Korea speaking about an end to the regime should it use its nuclear weapons. What are the prospects, Jacco, of perhaps another violent confrontation on the Korean Peninsula, do you think?
I would say at this stage, still relatively low. If all things remain as they are, and if cool heads prevail, as they have for most of the last 70 years, and as long as the United Nations Command maintains the peace that's created by the armistice, I see very little prospect of a violent confrontation, especially on a large scale. Now, everyone knows that a war here now in 2023 would be disastrous, not just for the two Koreas and all the people that live in both of them, but also for the 1 million or more Chinese citizens that live here in South Korea, and the 1 million or more citizens of other countries that live here in South Korea, and for the wider region, and frankly for the world it would be disastrous. So it has often been said, but it bears repeating, that Kim Jong-un and his inner circle, they want to live long and happy lives. They're not mad, they're not stupid, and they're not suicidal. So now, of course, that being said, accidents and miscalculations and unintended escalations can always occur, but that's true not just in Korea, but elsewhere in the world too. And so we just hope that cooler heads will prevail. Now, we don't know the intentions of Kim Jong-un and the government of North Korea beyond living a long and happy life, because North Korea doesn't dialogue much with the world. But we know the intentions of the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. We know the President of the United States, Joe Biden's intentions, and the United Nations commander. Their intention is to make sure that the peace is maintained and that the armistice continues to hold. So I'm hoping for the best, and I don't see any signs that a violent confrontation is around the corner.
Right, hopefully you're right. Meanwhile, Jeong-cheol, a local report here says that tours to North Korea from China appears to have resumed coinciding with the July 27 celebrations. Could you tell us a bit more about these tours?
Sure. The news was confirmed from some news outlets, including Arirang agency. And as you said, the Chinese travel agency Young Pioneer Tours, it resumed North Korean trips, a packaging trip. And the agency is based in Beijing. And I think I just checked their website, and they preparing some package tours like budget tours and Pyongyang language study. So this kind of a package tour. And the interesting thing is that there was a special tour to commemorate the 17th anniversary of the Armistice Day. So they say like, if you guys go to travel in North Korea, you can see the parade, and you can visit Pyongyang, and you can visit Myohyangsa Mountain, some places. And then the price is kind of various. The prices of the travel packages ranged from 425 euros, like $470 to approximately 2,500 euros, almost $2,700. So it's kind of various. So if you add some places to visit in North Korea, you should pay more. Yeah.
Right, I see, which is the case elsewhere as well.
That's right,
then.
yeah.
All right, Jeong-cheol, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts today. And Jacco, as always, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Right, well, that ends this edition of Issues and Insiders. Thank you for watching. See you same time tomorrow.